Hello and welcome to Art Alive. This week we're in Knowsley at the Heighton Gallery in the library to discover the artwork of a local artist based on printmaking. But first we went to the launch of a new exhibition at the Lady Lever Art Gallery, Picturing Venice, that displays the best 18th and 19th centuries British artist visions about the floating city.
The exhibition Picturing Venice at the Lady Lever Art Gallery shows the influence of Venice on artists since the 17th century, and he talks about it earlier, right up until the 20th century. It investigates how artists have loved visiting Venice, how tourists have loved visiting Venice and have bought artworks and brought them back to the UK as mementos of a wonderful journey there. And it also talks about, in more modern times, the place of Venice in showing contemporary art and how important it has been as an exhibiting place for artists as well. There's drawings, there are prints, and there are photographs. So we've got, for example, wonderful drawings by Walter Sickert. We've got some wonderful prints as well of the city, and some wonderful photographs, which you can see behind me, by Carlo Ponti, which he took of Venice in the 1860s. William Hesketh Lever, the first Lord Leverhulme, was actually a judge at the Venice Biennale a number of times. So there's that very personal connection with it, and the city and the history of contemporary art being shown in the city. But Lever also loved art generally. Of course, he put together this wonderful collection here, and he loved scenes of Italy as part of that. So we've got a number of wonderful views of Venice that are in his collection. Probably one of the most stunning is a view of Venice by Turner, a beautiful watercolour showing the city.
Venice always played a really pivotal role in the Grand Tour, which was the kind of established travel route that wealthy aristocrats would take through Europe in the 18th century. And Venice was one of the last stops for them in Italy. And Venice was particularly appealing, I think, to British people because it had so much in common with it. So Venice, like England, really relied on its kind of merchant trade, the sea and its navy, for its kind of role in Europe. So I think there was a sort of interest because of that, which kind of made them kind of maybe more attracted to it than other European countries and tourists were. And that kind of continued right on through, really. And I think particularly with Venice, a lot of Italy and its appeal for grand tourists were its kind of classical ruins, the ancient world. But Venice's history really begins with the Crusades, which again England played a big role in. And so, but like England, it didn't have that kind of classical history in the same way. And so it was a kind of newly made empire, an independent state. And I think Britain could kind of identify with that in the 18th century when it was building its own empires. And that translates into the interest of artists. And so in the exhibition, though, we sort of highlight the role that art played for people on the Grand Tour, but then right through after the Napoleonic Wars, when Venice lost its independence, and how it continues through the Venice Biennale to play a really pivotal role in European art and culture. Visually, I think Venice played, really appealed to people because it was so different to the rest of Europe. It's built on the water. We have all these winding canals. It's a very romantic, attractive city. And also the mixture of kind of Gothic architecture, Renaissance architecture, it's completely different to anywhere else. And because of its geographical location, it's not modernized in the same way. So it's a very compact city. It's not had historic buildings replaced with neoclassical buildings, for example. example, or with modern skyscrapers, and that's been the case since the 18th century. And so there's a sense of it as that eternal city, that you can go back in time, that you can walk the streets with the old masters like Tintoretto and people like that really appealed to aspiring artists, particularly at a time in the 18th and early 19th centuries when we were really starting to develop a kind of British school of art, and people were really interested in Renaissance, old masters particularly. There's a really wide range of artists in the exhibition, which I think is why it's so interesting for visitors. And it's particularly interesting that people like Turner are in the show, because we think of them so much in association with the British landscape as a British landscape painter. And the Napoleonic Wars had made travel, and tourism particularly impossible. And so artists like Turner weren't able to travel when they were kind of developing and young artists. And so they used the British landscape for their paintings instead. And that's when we see the kind of birth of British landscape painting. But so they return, when they're able to travel again, they come to Venice, and it's amazing, it's different. They've never seen it before apart from in other pictures. And so we see this kind of real rush of paintings of Venice and pieces by people like James Holland and also by Turner. And then we get that lovely mix, and they all bring their own approach and style and colouring to it. And in the more modern galleries, we see pieces that are really inspired by Impressionism and Post-Impressionism. So pieces like the work on the left, which are by an artist called Terrick Williams, who was very influenced by Impressionist styles of painting, that all kind of combine in this exhibition to show different images of Venice across the ages. Sickert's really interesting because he comes to Venice and sort of lives there on and off for about 10 years, around 1895, 1896. And he comes there kind of slightly disgraced from Britain. He's just divorced from his first wife, Ellen Cobden. He's fallen out enormously with his teacher and friend, the American artist Whistler, and his good friend Oscar Wilde's just been imprisoned on indecency charges. So he kind of slopes off a little bit to Venice and disappears into the city, and he kind of chooses not to live with the kind of tourist community or the expat community in the main sort of central areas of Venice, and instead goes and lives in the slightly darker, seedier areas where the gondolier families live and things like that. But Sickert wasn't a particularly wealthy man, and he wasn't great at selling his work either. So when dealers came to his studio, for example, looking to buy work, he would refuse to actually show them the front of the canvases and make them bid on the reverses. He was known for being very difficult and kind of trying to avoid the kind of commercialization of his work, but he needed money, and he knew that pictures of Venice sold. And so we do see him making some quite attractive and quite conventional kind of views of Venice, of St. Mark's and things like that, which sold really well, both as paintings and prints, which kind of kept him going. But in fact, it was really bad weather in Venice on one of his last sort of periods there, which meant that he wasn't able to work outside and sketch from the cities. So instead, he was kind of forced to work inside, and for want of anything else to work with, he ended up bringing models up into his studio to work. And it's those kind of interior Venetian scenes that lead on to the kind of Camden Town paintings, those very dark pictures that we see of kind of women and domestic settings that kind of dominate the rest of his career. So Venice plays a really pivotal role in the kind of development of his career as well. Artists like Brangwyn were really interested in slightly different things, perhaps, to the landscape painters like James Holland and Turner that had visited and that had dominated kind of images of the city until the 20th century. And Brangwyn was particularly interested in kind of working people, what their lives were like, and kind of looked to find that in Venice instead. When he was there, he chose instead to kind of go and seek out a slightly different aspect of the city. And so in his prints, we see the boatyards, we see working life, really, a side that most tourists wouldn't see, but he was interested in what it was that kept Venice going behind the scene.
You're talking about Impressionism, it feels like Venice is the place for it, but it's not just that. You have photographies as well, and they show something different about the city.
That's it. Photography has a massive impact on how pictures of Venice change, and so we've shown about quite a large selection of photographs by an artist or photographer called Carlo Ponti, who's an optician as well, and he opened a photography shop in Venice selling kind of ready-made photo albums to tourists in the 1860s. And what that enabled artists to do is to focus less on painting sort of accurate portrayals of the Grand Canal and of buildings and kind of topographical, almost map-like views. And instead, artists could be a bit more creative. They could focus less on kind of capturing the specifics of the place and more on a feeling of it. They could be more expressive and explore more of the city and how it made them feel. So we see pictures of just of the water's surface and on the steps of churches leading down to the canals and things like that, which are really quite abstract. But, you know, if you've been to Venice, you can see those and really be transported back to it. And perhaps even if you haven't, you can get a sense of what it might be like to stand there yourself. I think a lot of the debates about Venice, about whether it should modernise, about how we should preserve it, you know, they started in the 18th century and they continue to this day. And I think, you know, Venice gets described as things like the Disneyland for the cultured, things like that. And I think that's inescapable, but a lot of artists respond to that situation. And so we do see things like at the Venice Biennale, artists quite often comment on that side of Venice today. So, for example, artists have done performances on the water buses, the Vaporetto, that run around the city, kind of directly responding to the kind of tourist industry there. And in one of the prints in the exhibition by Jeremy Della that was made in 2013, he again responds to that tourism and also to the kind of commercialisation of Venice. So in one of the prints, he shows William Morris, the Victorian designer and artist, a sort of colossal version of him standing in the Grand Canal, and he's throwing the Russian businessman Roman Abramovich's yacht out of Venice, and that refers to a very specific incident where Roman Abramovich parked up his yacht on the banks of the Grand Canal and blocked off almost the entire pedestrian route to the Venice Biennale. And so we see, you know, people like Jeremy Della responding directly to that, and I think that kind of aspect of Venice is as much a part of contemporary culture across Europe and internationally. And so artists will continue to engage with that and about that kind of struggle for social equality and that we see in that print and more broadly in artists responding to Venice today.
Picturing Venice is on display until the 27th of September at the Lady Liver Art Gallery. After the break on Arts Alive, we'll meet Patricia McDonald, a local artist exhibiting her work here at the Highton Gallery, and we'll find out more about the LightNight Festival happening on next Friday. Welcome back to Arts Alive. We're at the Highton Gallery for a very local exhibition, but first we met Charlotte Corey, one of the directors of Open Culture, who gave us all the details of this year's LightNight Festival. So Charlotte, you're one of the directors of the LightNight Festival that enters in its 6th year now. Can you tell us how it works?
Yes, well, literally one night, in a special night in the year, lots of incredible organisations open the doors till very late to show off the huge arts and culture offer that is in the city 365 days a year. It's a pretty special night, just once a year, so not to be missed.
There's so much happening. How do you choose? I mean, there's like lots and lots of locations.
There absolutely is. There's 55 venues. We've got lots of streets activity in between all those venues, and we have over 130 events, all between 4 and very late on Friday the 15th of May. We want people to either consider what they want to do, and they can plan, and they can see an awful lot in that time if you think about it carefully. But if not, if you just go to one thing and you enjoy it, that's all that matters, really. There is a theme. Every year we have a theme. This year's is Look into the New World, and we felt that was quite apt with the fact that the city is celebrating the Cunard anniversary, and the fact that so many years ago the first passenger ship left Liverpool looking to America. But this isn't about the Americas as the new world. This is what does this new world mean to you? I mean, the election is just about to come up this week, so also, you know, pretty apt. And lots of arts organisations have taken that theme and considered what it is, you know, and how that affects them, and whether that's the new digital age. We've got a specially commissioned event by the Harlequin Dynamite marching band and other collaborators, and they're doing 4 short performances around the city, which is about looking at a sci-fi ritual, get it right, sci-fi ritual, which is looking at nature and technology, and they're going to have these incredible lit headdresses and costumes using musical instruments, and they'll be pretty spectacular, and that's one not to be missed.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Can you give us maybe a couple of locations? Because you said there was like 57 venues?
55 venues. We've got St George's Hall, we have the Walker Art Gallery, the beautiful Walker Art Gallery, which we're lucky enough to stand in. Then we've got St George's Hall, the library, there's going to be performance outside, so that's this area. Then we've got up on Hope Street, the whole of the Hope Street quarter, from one cathedral to the other, including the universities, the Everyman, so the Philharmonic for the first time, pretty special up there. Where else? We've got the waterfront area has got a huge offer with Open Eyes, got as part of the Look International Photography exhibition, which is launching on Light Night. But outside there we've got a lantern festival, a lantern making workshop, which everybody who participates in, their lantern will be lit and then will float on the canal as part of Light Night. The Tate is going to be open, the Maritime, first time on Light Night. Around there's the town hall, and then the whole of the city centre. So you've got the likes, lots of organisations down Bowl Street and in the city centre, small ones like Rococo, a little independent cafe which is going to turn into Alice in Wonderland for the night, courtesy of young children from Huyton and Knowsley. Then we've got the Baltic Triangle. That area is opening with just a variety of different creative exhibitions, studios, print workshops, photo booths, again, just incredible array of things. Rope walks, Chinatown. The city is alive with a lot of activity.
Thank you very much, Shala.
You're welcome.
The LightNight Festival takes place on Friday the 15th of May from 4 p.m. Programs can be found in all participating venues, and 6 vintage buses will be providing free service through the city. Now I'm joined with Patricia McDonald. Hello, Patricia.
Hello.
You are a printmaker from Kirby, and you're exhibiting your work here in the gallery, in the Huyton Gallery. Can you tell us a little bit how you've worked? Because it's a mix of printmaking and digital images.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been working like this for quite a long time now, probably 20 years, sort of going from the traditional side of printmaking and the process base, and then linking it more so into the digital side and working with layers, lots of found objects, and it's just so interesting for me, and I'm quite passionate about the layering and sort of passing on the knowledge to other people, really.
And so this exhibition here, it's about your travelings. Mm-hmm. Is there a country in particular that comes out?
Probably Japan.
Yeah?
Probably Japan. But then Germany, I've always been interested in Germany and just the architecture, the culture, the life, how relaxed people are. And the similar way with Japan, just the colour, the feel, people are so friendly. So
okay, because you have America, you have Australia, mm-hmm. Belize, mm-hmm. But you have a section about Liverpool as well. Mm-hmm. It's not a trouble because you are from here, actually.
Well, I think celebrate the city that I come from. I grew up, here, coming always into Liverpool. It's part of my heritage, so I wanted to get that out so people saw it as a celebration.
Okay, and concerning the techniques, how do you work on it? Because you said it's several layers.
Oh, on some pieces it's about 30 layers, just build up, knock areas back. If they're not quite working, transfer things out, bring things forward, maybe bring lettering, bring text, bring image, knock things back, and then play around a little bit and then experiment. If it works, great. If it doesn't, take it back, bring it forth.
When you look at it, it looks like a giant scrapbook. It's something that people want to do when they come back from their holidays, but you actually made it.
Yeah, I think for me, I collect newspapers, tickets, artifacts basically, sweet wrappers, things that we use from day to day, but we tend to throw them away. But that's part of the essence, the culture. That's what we forget. We think about the photographs with the person in the photograph, but it's those tiny things that actually make the holiday what it is, or the travel, the journal. So they're my sort of visual journals of each place.
Yeah, because in some places, for instance, I was looking at Australia, you don't have particular buildings like the major one that we used to see.
I tried not to be too literal with Australia, mainly because I've got a friend over there and she lives in Perth, and there was a lovely sort of architectural piece on the Swan River, and I thought that's fantastic, but it's the fact that it's so relaxed, but then it's got the big business district and more of a silhouette, work with the silhouettes and layers, and the fact that Australia is so multi-layered with so many cultures living in that country. I wanted to celebrate that as well as the colour. Colour's always been a major input in all of my work.
You were saying as well that you're a teacher. Are you working in this kind of printmaking with your students?
Sort of mixed media, really. Sort of, I teach the whole range from fine art, sculpture, graphic design, illustration, computer design. So I teach A-level art and design to my sixth formers. I just work with sixth formers and give them a breadth of experience, and I teach media production, so it's quite nice sort of doing this interview actually. But yeah, just a whole breadth, and they sort of become inspired by what I'm doing, and I tell them about the upcoming events and what I'm up to, and it gives them that passion. So in the last 3 years, all my students have gone on to art college, and they stay in touch, which is fantastic, and we have this great rapport. So I know a lot of them have been in to see the exhibition, and it's to say, you know, I'm practicing, a lot of your staff are practicing artists, so there is life outside of the classroom more than anything.
And you were saying there's digital images that you're teaching as well. Is there really like a big difference between print? I mean, there's an evolution between printmaking and...
I think if you have an understanding of traditional print, you'll go into digital design so easily because the methods, the techniques, the language is so similar. And sort of the correlation is so easy. So if you wanted to take I don't know, a screen print, take it into digital, then take it back in, overlay, then take it back into digital, you can do that. So I try and introduce that to some of the students who are passionate about printmaking. Not all of them, but some of them. Yeah.
Okay. Patricia, your work is exhibited here at the Highton Gallery until
16th of May.
Until the 16th of May, so there's 1 week left?
1 week left, so it's been on here for 3 months now, and then hopefully it will go on to Royal Met College as well. So just certain pieces will go over there. That's the next stage, and then hopefully we'll see what develops from there. Really, I'm working on a new series of pieces based on cells. Okay. Body cells, human cells. So again, that's the layering process. So it's a little bit of a transition from what I'm doing here. Similar technique, but completely different imagery.
What do you mean, body cells?
Human cells.
Okay.
So looking through microscopes, taking the images forward, layering, looking at the colour, adding, sort of quite scientific really. So I've been doing a lot of that at the moment, adding certain liquids to the actual cells, to the blood, and using microscopic images and then blowing them up. So that's the next series of works.
Okay, we're looking forward to that. Thank you very much, Patricia.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's all for us in Arts Alive. See you next time.